the tale began in shadow. It was an old story, deep in Blackwood forest, a forgotten place. An old house stood there, gaunt and silent, Blackwood Manor. People whispered its name even now. They spoke of a mirror, a dark mirror. It was said to reside within the manor's decaying walls. This mirror was not like other mirrors. It held secrets, dark, terrible secrets, they said. The mirror wasn't born of light, no, not at all. Craftsmen of old spoke of strange materials, an obsidian heart, perhaps. Silver mixed with tears of sorrow. It was ancient, older than the manor itself, some whispered. It reflected more than just faces. It showed glimpses of souls, or so the chilling legends claimed. It peered into the hidden corners of a person, the places they kept locked away even from themselves. Legend claimed it held a watcher, something ancient. Trapped within the cold, unyielding glass, it waited there patiently for someone to look too long, for someone to let their curiosity bloom into belief. The De Vere family once owned it. They lived in Blackwood Manor. They vanished, one by one, leaving no trace behind, only silence and the mirror. The mirror was then lost, or perhaps deliberately hidden. Some hopeful souls said it was destroyed, shattered into 1,000 pieces. But dark things have a way of returning. They find their way back into the world. They wait for the right time, the right unsuspecting person. The whispers of the mirror never truly died. They just faded for a little while, waiting. Alex Thorne never believed in ghosts or curses. Such things were for children, for campfire stories. He was a man of logic, of numbers and spreadsheets. His life was ordered, neat, predictable, until the letter arrived. It came on a Tuesday from a lawyer he didn't know. The paper felt old, important. It smelled faintly of dust. His great-aunt Ilara had passed away. He barely remembered her, a distant figure, a strange old woman, people had called her. She lived alone, in a crumbling, dusty house far from the city. The letter spoke of an inheritance, not money, not property, a single item, an antique mirror, Ilara's most prized possession, the lawyer had written. Alex felt a flicker of something, annoyance. Alex almost refused the inheritance. A mirror? What use was an old mirror to him? It was probably chipped, the silver backing tarnished and peeling. He had his own mirrors, modern, clean, but the lawyer was surprisingly insistent. It was her most prized possession, he'd repeated over the phone. His voice was somber, almost a warning. Alex sighed. Fine, he would take the damn thing, get it over with. He drove to the old house on a gray afternoon. It smelled strongly of dust. And something else, something faintly metallic, almost sweet, like old dried blood. The air was heavy, the mirror was covered, draped with a heavy velvet cloth, the color of a deep bruise, dark purple, almost black. It stood in the center of the main room, waiting, as if it knew he was coming. Alex brought the mirror home, to his clean, modern apartment. It looked terribly out of place there, too ornate, too dark, too old. He decided to hang it in the spare room, a room he rarely used, a dumping ground for things he didn't need. He felt a strange reluctance, a hesitation to uncover it, as if some part of him knew this was a mistake. He finally pulled the heavy cloth away. The glass was surprisingly clear, deceptively so. It was deep, almost like looking into still, dark water. His own reflection stared back. Normal, just him, pale from the drive. He shrugged. Just an old mirror after all. What was he expecting? Horns and a tail? He gave a short, nervous laugh. It sounded loud in the quiet room. That night the lights flickered just once in the hallway, right outside the spare room door. Old wiring, Alex muttered to himself. He was tired, stressed from work. He went to check the circuit breakers in the kitchen. All were fine, all secure. He felt a sudden chill. Despite the warmth of the late spring night, he dismissed it. Imagination, nothing more. The next day, he found a book on the floor, beside his armchair in the living room, a book that was always on his shelf. never moved. It was open to a specific page, a page about local legends, about Blackwood Manor and a cursed mirror. He hadn't touched that book in years. Coincidence, he told himself. Firmly, just a strange, unsettling coincidence. It had to be. He started noticing things, small things at first, easy to dismiss, about the mirror in the spare room. His reflection seemed slow, almost lazy, delayed, just a fraction of a second. He'd turn his head quickly. His reflection would follow. A heartbeat too late. He blinked hard. Was he just tired? Staring too intently? Stress could do strange things to perception, sometimes out of the corner of his eye. When he wasn't looking directly at it, he thought he saw movement within the dark depths of the glass. A shadow, a flicker, a distortion. When he turned his head to look properly, there was nothing. Just his own face, staring back at him, looking a little more pale, a little more worried each time. His stomach felt tight. One morning he saw it clearly, just for a fleeting moment. His reflection smiled. He wasn't smiling. His heart hammered against his ribs. A cold fist clenched in his chest. He stepped back from the mirror, took a deep, shaky breath, looked again. Normal. Just his own worried face, his own unsmiling lips. He must be stressed, overworked, seeing things. That was the only explanation. The air in the spare room grew cold, consistently cold, even when the central heating was on full blast. A faint smell lingered there now. That same peculiar metallic sweetness, the one from his great-aunt's decaying house. He started to avoid the spare room. He kept the door closed, but the mirror drew him. He felt its presence like a dark magnet pulling at his thoughts. Sleep became a luxury he could no longer afford. He tossed and turned in his bed. Nightmares plagued him, vivid, terrifying, shadows dancing on his bedroom walls, whispers in the dark corners of the room. He couldn't quite make out the words. They were slithering just beyond understanding, but the tone, it was beckoning, inviting, and filled with a cold, ancient malice. He started hearing things even when he was wide awake. Faint murmurs, soft, sibilant sounds. They seemed to be coming from the spare room, from behind the closed door. He'd stand outside it, pressing his ear to the wood, listening. The sounds were like water rushing underground, or like dry wind rustling through dead leaves in a forgotten graveyard, unsettling, persistent. One night, a clear whisper cut through the silence. Alex, his name spoken softly, almost tenderly. It came from the spare room, from the mirror. He was sure of it, absolutely sure. He stood frozen in the hallway. Terror gripped him, cold, sharp, like icy fingers on his spine. He wanted to run. He wanted to smash the mirror into a million tiny pieces, destroy it. But he did nothing. He couldn't move. Fear was a chain binding his limbs. Curiosity, an insidious hook, lodged deep in his mind. He found himself thinking about the mirror constantly, day and night. What did it want from him? What was truly inside that dark glass? His skepticism was long gone, shattered, replaced by a gnawing, pervasive dread that consumed his every waking moment. He remembered the lawyer's careful words, her most prized possession. Why would Alara prize such a thing? What did his strange great-aunt see in that cold, dark glass? He searched through the few boxes of her effects. He found an old diary, tucked away at the bottom of a dusty box. Her handwriting was spidery, faded, difficult to read, like secrets whispered on old paper. The diary spoke often of the mirror. It sees, she had written in a shaky hand. It remembers everything. It calls to you. There were warnings scribbled in the margins, frantic, desperate. Do not listen to its promises. Do not look too long into its depths. It changes you. It takes what it wants. Alex felt a cold shiver trace its way down his spine. This was insane, utterly insane. He started to research Blackwood Manor, the DeVere family, the original owners. They had all vanished, every single one of them, without a trace. The local historical society had archives. He found an old newspaper clipping, yellowed with age. It mentioned a cursed looking glass from the manor, said to show the other side of reality. He felt a wave of nausea. The words echoed Ilara's. He should have destroyed it then, smashed it to pieces without a second thought, burned the ornate frame, thrown the shards into the deepest river he could find. But he hesitated. A perverse part of him, a dark curiosity, needed to know. What was this other side? The warnings from the diary, from the old newspaper, echoed in his mind. Unheeded. He was already caught, snared. The events began to escalate, rapidly. The shadows in the mirror grew bolder, more defined. They didn't always mimic his movements now. They moved on their own accord, dark, fluid shapes, twisting, reaching out from the depths of the glass. He watched, mesmerized, horrified. Unable to tear his gaze away, he was a fly caught in a spider's web. One evening, standing before it, he saw a face. It was not his own, not even close. It was pale, deathly pale, with dark, empty eyes, like bottomless pits. It stared out from the mirror, from just behind his own reflection's shoulder. It smiled, a slow, terrible smile, full of knowing, full of hunger. Alex stumbled back, his heart pounded like a drum, his breath caught in his throat. He felt a touch, cold, unmistakably cold, on his arm. He was alone in the apartment. He knew he was. He spun around, wildly. Nothing, no one there. But the coldness lingered on his skin, a phantom grip. He looked back at the mirror, the figure, the pale face. It was closer to the surface of the glass now, its shadowy hand outstretched, almost through, almost touching him. He couldn't look away now, not anymore. The mirror dominated his thoughts, his entire life. The apartment itself felt alien, possessed by something. The air was thick, heavy, difficult to breathe. He knew he was in terrible danger, deep mortal danger, but the pull of the mirror, the promise of its secrets, it was too strong, an addiction, a damnation he had to see. He stood before the mirror, late one moonless night. The spare room was ice cold, colder than a tomb. The whispers were louder now, a chorus of voices, beckoning, promising forbidden secrets, promising unimaginable power. He felt his will eroding, crumbling, slipping away from him like sand through desperate, clutching fingers. He was losing himself bit by bit. His reflection was no longer his. It was the other. The pale face, the empty, knowing eyes. It stared back at him from his own stolen features. It beckoned with his own hand, reaching out. "Come," it whispered. The voice was inside his head now and all around him in the room, a sibilant chorus. "Join us. Be with us." Forever, he reached out. His fingers trembled violently towards the cold, smooth glass. The surface rippled like disturbed water, like a tear in reality. His reflection's hand, the other's hand, met his. Cold, so terribly cold, it pulled. Hard, he felt a sickening lurch, a disorientation. The world twisted around him, colors inverted, sounds warped. A scream tore from his throat, unheard. He was looking out, from inside the mirror, at his own body, standing in the familiar spare room. Its eyes, his eyes, were now dark, empty, soulless. A slow, triumphant smile spread across its face, his face, the face that was no longer his. It turned smoothly and walked away from the mirror, leaving him trapped in the cold, silent darkness, a prisoner of the glass. Trapped. He was trapped. Forever. Behind the cold, unyielding glass. He screamed then, endlessly. But no sound came out, not in the world he knew. He beat against the unyielding surface, his silent prison. His former body, now an imposter, moved through his apartment. It touched his things, his books, his clothes, with alien hands, with a stranger's intent. He watched, helpless. Days passed, or perhaps nights. Time had no meaning here. In this silent, dark, echoing world, he saw glimpses of the other side, his old life being lived by another, the thing wearing his skin. It looked back at him sometimes from the other side of the glass. It would smile, that terrible, knowing smile, acknowledging its prisoner, its prize, its predecessor. He was not alone in the mirror. He soon realized that. There were others. countless others, shadows in the periphery, whispering, fading figures, lost souls, the De Vere's, Great Aunt Ilara, all trapped, all part of the mirror's eternal collection. Their faces were etched with an unending despair and a terrible, hollow hunger. They welcomed him to their silent torment. The apartment was eventually sold. New people moved in, a young couple, happy, oblivious. They admired the beautiful antique mirror. They didn't see him or the others, not yet. But the mirror waited, patiently as it always had, for someone to look too long, for someone to listen to its dark whispers. The cycle would begin again. His own gaze, now empty, watched them from the glass, waiting.